Welcome to the Challenges of Change, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey towards self-improvement and personal growth. I'm your host, Laura, a mindset coach in the health and fitness industry, here to guide you through the hurdles that life throws at you. In each episode, we'll delve into practical strategies and insightful discussions to help you manage stress, regulate your emotions, upgrade your mindset, and ultimately reclaim your sense of worth. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey of change, challenges, and self-discovery. And we are back for another episode of the Challenges of Change. And today I have a special guest for all of you to explore the world of health, and it is Dr. Valerie Steele. And rather than butchering the beauty of her journey and how she makes a difference and an impact in the world, I'm going to let you hear it straight from her. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. Excited to be here and have this conversation today. My 15-second pitch is I am an intentional living and mindset coach. I work with women who are focused on leading their families and their careers or businesses with intention, with confidence, and really want to bring connection into what they're creating in their lives, not only with their families, but within their professional lives as well. So do a lot of work with mothers and really just find my passion in terms of inspiring and empowering other women, which certainly aligns well with my host today.
Oh,
So
yeah.
very excited to be here.
I mean, you guys can imagine when Valerie and I first met that it was just, two bees attracted to the same honey because we both like to lift people up. And ironically, we actually ran into each other at an event that was a pre-event for a conference called Amplify Women. So if
Mhm.
it wasn't like written in stone, there it is, right?
Yeah. It was
Um,
just a great energy match from minute one. I think at the end I was like, I really need to talk more to you. I need more of you.
yeah, so we've chatted and become fast friends because I don't know, there's something synergetic when you find someone whose vibe, for lack of better terms, is the same as yours, and not in like a selfish way either. Like there's so many people in this world who are transactional about giving and taking, more in the taking, and that's not what you get with Valerie. You get wholehearted, open, curious, and when I find someone like that, I hold on because it's hard to find you guys. Um, and don't get me wrong, your 15-second pitch was perfectly bowed, but how did you find this as your space of fulfillment?
I found this as my space because it was a space that I needed. Yeah, I know. It's funny how the universe brings you what you need.
I know.
But really, over the last 10 years of my own personal development work, realized that there was a real disconnect between what mothers especially were experiencing in terms of trying to continue to be the version of themselves that they were before motherhood, whether they defined themselves based on their career or their business or being a partner. But then transitioning that into, okay, what does it look like now that I also have small humans that I'm responsible for? Like, who am I? And then all of the guilt and confusion that comes along with, okay, now which of these things do I want to be, or how do I be both at the same time? There's
Yeah.
a lot of societal and family pressure to, both sides of the coin, either to be a fully immersed mother and put your career or your business on the back burner, or the other way around, it doesn't matter that you have kids, you still need to be here and you want to be working, or maybe you really want to put all of your time and energy into your business, and let it be okay that somebody else is doing car line and that you're not around in the evenings, and that's okay too.
Mm.
But learning how to hold space for whatever it is that's true for you, and intentionally creating that instead of just letting default happen and end up in a situation where you're waking up every day dreading what you're doing because you didn't decide with intention.
So, like you said, this was kind of like your struggle found you through like the universe kind of connecting you. So,
Absolutely.
that last thing you were saying, like until you decide, what was that moment where you were like, I don't know where I am, and you just made that decision? Like, how did you figure out that that was the moment for you?
So for me, it actually happened before I became a mother. I had several years. My husband and I experienced a lot of infertility,
Mhm.
several miscarriages, and there really was this pivotal moment of who do we want to be as a family? Do we want to be this partnership together? Or do we want to continue to pursue starting a family, which means more than just the typical way you start a family? It got
Right.
to the point for us where we realized there was going to have to be a little bit of above and beyond effort involved in having a family. So that pivotal point for me became very, very clear when the automatic choice of having children was taken away from me,
Mm.
which was the way I perceived it. Um,
Mhm.
and had to decide to do something else in order to make it happen. So, coming into parenting, I knew that I wanted to be a very present mother. I wanted to put my career on the back burner. I'd been a pharmacist and in pharmacy for 20 some years with the VA system. So, it was very clear to me. Now, the funny thing happened was once I then ended up having this wonderful family and my two small children, but they're not small anymore. Well, they still are small, but um, I realized that the type of mother that I really wanted to be and what I brought into that decision had to pivot based on the kids that I had and
Mhm.
what they actually needed. So that whole evolution, oh, excuse me, I have a kitty here on the keyboard.
All right.
So
Nothing
that
wrong.
whole evolution made me realize there are several different breaking points that women need support. It's, figuring out who you are in the transition from career to motherhood, but then also who you are as a mother, which then birthed my business. And
Mhm.
now I'm also having to realize, okay, well, you know what? I did just pick the kids up, but right now they're on the TV because I have this call and I am prioritizing my business over being with them at certain times. So there's just so many pivot points, as you asked, that
Yeah.
that brought me to realizing this was a need that others would benefit from.
I mean, absolutely. Like, there's so much about the complexity of fertility, becoming a mother, becoming pregnant, miscarriages that are not spoken about. And it's funny growing up as, like, I don't have kids, but growing up as a girl and like, I only know this side, right? Like, I only know the don't have kids side, but I experienced so many of my other people in my lives who have gone through all of those things and different clients. And there's so much of a identity crisis, for lack of better terms, around what does it even mean to be me anymore? Like one of the things you articulated, I think beautifully, was you had this idea and you started with the idea. And I think having a hypothesis is good. But then once you got to know your kids, you realize, okay, there's not some like something's not meshing and you needed to adapt to the kids you have, which I think takes a lot of courage. So like kudos to you for that. And in general, I think it's very hard because if you think about the idea of losing an identity, right? Everything you've understood about yourself is kind of in this bubble. And now you're going into a totally new bubble. And the only thing that's really in that bubble right now are the cultural norms, the messages, the limiting beliefs about what it means to be a quote unquote good mom and the shame cycles of everyone else's opinion, which I'm not even going to get into because that would be its own podcast. And this is not going to be a bitch fest. This is going to be empowering. Promise. So, I love that you recognized that moment of kind of incongruency and had the courage to adapt, to listen to your intuition. And I think it's really important to be able to detach from that component. Uh, and ironically, what you guys did not hear is right before we even started this recording, Valerie and I, as I mentioned, have become fast friends. And she intuitively noticed that my energy was a little bit lower today. And that's okay. What I shared with her, I'll share with you, is that I didn't sleep well last night. We all have it, right? But I'm trying to work on being okay being in a lower energy and still being productive. Now, I know this doesn't necessarily directly correlate to what does it mean to be the mom I want to be per se, but the mom you want to be and the person you want to be, there, what is it? Is it a Venn diagram where their circles are, right? Like it's
Yep.
a Venn diagram. So like who you are and how you identify yourself as a human being and who you are as a mother are going to have different intersections. I know for me, not even being a mother, learning to be okay being myself, even if that means operating in lower energy, not having to turn it up or perform, it's uncomfortable because people immediately notice. And some people will let a comment or some body language slip that I will experience as kind of negative. And then there's the beautiful Valerie who is like, do you? We all do things when we're sleepy sometimes. And I'm like, see, this is the type of energy I need. This is why Valerie's in my life. So connecting this directly to what you do, sleepless nights are well known in parenthood. Did
Yeah.
you experience that kind of same energy deficient where you felt like you needed to perform?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I hesitated because there's so many different directions my thoughts are going as you're talking through this. I'm like, oh, I want to say this and I want to say this. So let me gather my thoughts on one. So to directly answer your question, of course, I mean everybody experiences that,
Yeah.
and I think that one of the things that happens with moms is that you and not just moms with anybody is you experience the tiredness or the lack of motivation or the negative whatever negative thing that you're experiencing, which can be challenging enough but is part of life. But then there's the added, that second arrow as it's called, the added suffering of, oh, I shouldn't have stayed up so late, or I shouldn't be this tired, or I should feel more motivated. So to directly pull that into parenting, sometimes, and I'll be the one to say it here, sometimes moms don't want to be around their kids.
Oh God, no.
Like,
Thank you
right?
for saying that. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you don't like doing X, Y, or Z, or showing up in this way, or being patient, or and it's holding space for that, kind of like you're doing today. Like, I'm tired, I'm noticing a shift in my own energy, and I'm just going to let that be okay, and not make it mean there's something wrong with you or that you are failing in any way. And that's what I see so many mothers do. They experience the negative emotion, or the I don't want to be around my kids right now, or I want to prioritize my business, or whatever it is, and then they're adding this additional layer of unnecessary suffering with guilt, and I shouldn't be thinking this way, or I must not be a good mother if I am doing this call right now instead of seeing my kids after school, whatever, a million different things. So as humans, it seems like we're attracted to that extra layer of suffering. We can't just let the negative be or the mistake happen. It's that, throwing on the shame or the guilt or the judgment that just, makes that weight, that coat of arms so much heavier.
Oh yeah. Like we were born or conditioned with this like inherent resistance of if you aren't behaving the way you prefer to behave, be that energetically or emotionally, then we unconsciously interpret it as something's wrong and we tell ourselves a story about it, right? Like there's
Yes.
so many people who will be tired, right? And start thinking like, okay, did I not have enough protein today? Did I not drink enough water? Like seeking the problem. Maybe
Mhm.
you're just tired sometimes. I know it's a wild idea, but like seems pretty human. And I feel like we forget that we're human,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
That the experience is always going to be a combination of good and bad, or positive emotion and negative emotion, of elation and devastation, right? It's
Mhm.
all going to happen. Nothing has gone wrong here.
So, where do you think this comes from? Like I agree, we all have this like built-in second layer of like resistance towards being different than we wish we were. It's another layer of suffering, kind of to your point. But I don't think we were born like that. Do you?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I've ever really thought about it the way you're asking it. Part of me thinks that yeah, we kind of are born. So I'll tell you why I'm thinking that. What I'm thinking about is that primal part of our brain, the amygdala, the fight or flight, the immediate action
Mhm.
area that is so focused on protecting us, and and I mean protecting, like life or death protecting, the motivational triad of avoid pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy, right? That part of us recognizes anything outside of those three primal needs or primal motivations as uncomfortable or as something being wrong. Um, I'm trying to pull this into the answer to your question because that's where my brain went.
Well, let's
But
dissect it, right? Let's throw the ball around. You haven't thought about this. I didn't even think this was going to be part of the conversation, but it's here, so let's have some fun with it, right?
yeah,
So let me tell you where I'm at, and then we can kind of have the discussion. It'll be fun. And guess what? We're allowed to have different opinions, which is super fun too, right?
yeah,
I agree with the motivational triad. I also think that at those early stages, like 0 to 7 or 8, our brain is just kind of coding life experience as like positive association, negative association, positive association, negative association. So yes, the motivational triad does technically kind of make it so that we can survive. It's a survival feature. I think that we are conditioned to evolve that to mean psychological threat. I don't think we're born inherently with the psychological threat component. I think that we learn that through how we are as children when we are the way we are, whatever that looks like in that moment, and our parent had a long day and they snap because they're human. And they're like, can you just shut up for a minute? You might interpret that as there's something wrong with me. And that is like a negative association of speaking up, playing, whatever it might be, is then coded as like, it's not okay to be me, is kind of how I'm thinking. Because, like, I know in the early stages, our brain is very much creating that primal association of positive, negative experience, and that creates a lot of the predictability. So I think that that inherent physical survival threat component was conditioned to become a psychological threat component. Ball.
yeah.
Your turn.
So yeah, back to you. um, okay, yes. I mean, the conditioning certainly is there, and all of those things that happen to us, even through adulthood, not just in those early years, that feel unsafe or feel give us that immediate, oh, I did something wrong, or there's something wrong here. Certainly is a huge role of the conditioning that we experience.
Mhm.
I just I just wonder though, in terms of talking about that second arrow and that additional suffering, if if there really isn't, I don't know, if there really isn't still some sort of more physiologic part of that we're not giving credit to. For example, in medicine, and when you think about the actual clinical and chemical things that are happening in diagnosed disorders like depression, there truly are chemical adjustments that can be made that activate different neurotransmitters and make things uh, receptors activate in different ways that I don't want to get all pharmacist-y
Science,
here
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
but really there is that component too. I'm definitely not volleying back the idea that no, there's no conditioning and there's no psychological component, but there absolutely is. And I mean that's what my business is all about, right? Is helping on the mindset side of things and helping on the thought work and how powerful that can be in changing all of these pre-wired or unintentionally wired pathways. But I still do believe that there's more to it, at least in certain situations.
Fair, totally fair. I love a difference, and honestly, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. I think for me, are you familiar with epigenetic stuff?
No.
Okay, I'm not going to get too nerdy
I
then.
was going to say, do I need to be? Because it sounds like something I'd
I
probably
mean, we should
nerd
talk
out over.
offline about it because we would totally dork out. But it was something that really kind of opened my eyes to the nature versus nurture component of life, where all these diseases that we kind of had associated as genetic were actually not necessarily genetic. And I remember one of the books I read about it, they talked about ADD or something of that component, and they were looking at the heredity. And actually, they found like 90% of people who have ADHD, their parents did not have ADHD or did not have ADD. So we don't know definitively, but the whole idea of epigenetics is based on the nurtured environment. The genome can turn on certain behaviors and turn off certain behaviors, which is ultimately a lot of what you and I do with coaching. And I'll tell you the personal reason I think I would probably say I don't believe it's how we are as like how we're born that way is because I used to have that level of I shouldn't be the way I am. The suffering level, the hypervigilance of how others will think of me. And then when I became a coach, it just was at a stars aligned moment. COVID hit. I just got married. I moved to Florida. Like so many different components of my life had changed that opened me up. And I remember what it was like to kind of talk shit to myself. But now I don't have that second layer. Like I know I more notice what used to be that kind of negative self-talk that you should have, whatever you do isn't right, it's never good enough. I now just notice it as like, like it's like a anticipation of like, did I sense something is imbalanced? But there's not a heaviness to it. There's not a negativity to it. And I think that is what I didn't understand before I became a mindset coach is you can actually change how you experience the world.
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, that is such a powerful and kind of mind exploding revelation to get to on a personal development journey, whether it's through therapy or coaching or whatever, right? I mean, it once you get there, you can never go back.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be able to train yourself, which is what we do with our clients, of course, to I think one of the most important things you said there was to have the awareness of when that additional layer of suffering or judgment starts to come on. Once you start realizing that that's a thing and that you can choose and decide not to do it. Yes, it takes work. Yes, it's not something that happens overnight, but it does, it changes everything. And one of the things that you just said there too that I loved was not only your own recognizing your own judgment that you're putting on yourself, but worrying what other people are thinking and worrying about what their judgments are, and getting to a place where yes, you allow yourself to experience the positives and negatives, but also then allowing other people to experience their own version of that, even as it relates to you,
Mhm.
can just completely change someone's life.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see the coding I was conditioned with and the coding I unlearned and relearned, so to speak, especially around like other people being upset, whether it's a lower energy, being scared, being sad, being anxious, whatever it might be. Like I used to do so much of my regulation from outside of me that I needed everyone else to be okay. And I would use myself to regulate everyone else because it was the only way I actually knew how to regulate myself. Now, that wasn't where my biology started. That was a conditioned survival response from a young age. I'm thrilled that it has given me the gift I have today and that I get to empower people to, lead their mind with greater authority. And I think that's one of the cool things that we share is that our pain created purpose for us. And like pain isn't inherently bad for that sake. And learning how to be with people and not make them feel like they need to be okay so you can be okay. You don't have to fix it. And I don't think people recognize it. I don't think people understand when you're trying to fix someone else's emotion, you're not doing it because you want them to feel better. You're doing it because you want to feel better. And
Right.
you need them to feel better in order for you to feel better.
Yes.
So I'm curious your journey experience with the fixing of emotions.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm going to comment on a couple of things here. Let me jot down what you just asked. But I want to comment on a couple of things that you said there, just in case there is anyone listening who is recognizing that they're finding themselves in that, oh my gosh, I need everybody else around me to approve, or I need just to take a pause and say, of course, that feels safest because again, going back to evolution and what we need in terms of how for humanity to be successful, we need a tribe, we need a group, especially as women. We need we are wired for that sense of community.
Mhm.
So there is nothing wrong in experiencing that. I want everybody to be okay. I want to be accepted. I want everybody else to be happy with me because, again, evolution wise, we're wired to want that because your tribe leaves you 10,000 years ago, you're alone in a cave and a lion comes, you're done. So there is that, right? Yeah, there's that survival part of it.
Mhm.
So just to pause on that and there's nothing wrong, but now that you've got the awareness of what in turn that's doing to you, because we're not in a cave anymore, there are no lions coming anymore. I mean, we still, to be healthy and socially healthy individuals, we need that connection, but you no longer are going to die if someone is upset with you. You
Right.
no longer are going to literally have your life be in danger if people are mad at you or, step in and out of your life. So being able to hold space for, yes, that makes sense that you were at that point, Laura, or that, maybe that's the place in evolution that some of the listeners are at right now. It, that's okay. But now you get to take that fear away, realizing that we're no longer in that part of our human journey, that we are in a 2025 situation where it's okay for people to be upset with you. You don't have to make them happy with you anymore. And also, the idea that we can make anybody feel anything is kind of outside of our realm
Yeah.
of capability anyway, because the way they're going to feel is based on their
There's
entire experience of life and their thoughts, and you can't change their thoughts. So
100%. Oh my God, it's
even
impossible.
yeah. So even as we go into the idea of making other people happy or people pleasing or not letting them experience their own negative realm of emotion, you're basically putting your happiness and your ability to experience your own life at the mercy of others if you stay in that space, which is
Hmm.
going to be a very frustrating space to be in since we just cannot control other human beings. We can't control their thoughts.
Hmm. Yeah.
So um, okay, so there's my comment to that. Now, in terms of, you asked about, my journey and my evolution of learning how to not feel like I have to fix others or fix their emotions or fix their opinions of me. I'm still in it, to be perfectly honest. This is something that I continue to struggle with. My own history, for many reasons that we won't go into here, like really created me, nurtured me into a people pleaser. And it was very scary for me to have anyone feel dissatisfied with me. Anybody, like random people in the checkout line. Oh, I don't want to upset them. Oh, what if I, or, like anybody, crazy things, or people, telemarketers. I'd sit on the phone and listen to their whole thing because I don't want to be rude and say no, thank you, and hang up. Like it was, right. So I really had to explore this idea of, okay, well, what would happen if the telemarketer was mad at me? I started with some low stakes situations.
Oh
What
yeah.
would happen if the telemarketer was mad at me? What would happen if the person in the grocery store, and really give my brain some evidence that I will survive and it will be okay if someone's disappointed in a choice that I make or doesn't like me. And then I had to start letting that, feed into maybe, friend or relational
Circles.
periphery. Yeah,
Yeah.
like friends, coworkers, people more on the periphery. And then the next step was maybe allowing my parents to, not accommodating when they want to come over at the certain time and that, no, this doesn't work for us in our family. And then my husband and now my kids, part of motherhood is feeling like you're disappointing people all the time because they're going to complain. You give them the red cup, they're complaining that's not the blue cup. You give them strawberries, they've decided now it's bananas. It's like you're constantly disappointing small humans. So really having to embrace that idea of that you can't first of all, it's not our responsibility to fix other people's emotions, but it's okay to let them have the negative ones and we're going to be okay.
I'd argue it's almost unhealthy to fix adult emotions. Like kids, obviously they you need to be taught and like they need some co-regulation and that's a whole process. But like once you're an adult, like for our parents especially, like it can't be our job. That also is just like the enabling worst case scenario of hell. Because I remember when my husband and I first started going back to Chicago for holidays, it was 2020. We hadn't seen our families since July. His parents lived 20 minutes from mine. Long story short, we slept, like he slept at his parents and I slept at my parents because we hadn't seen them and it was COVID and it was a thing. But then that kind of became like an unexpected norm of like they expected him to sleep there, my parents expected me to sleep there. And like we also played into that. And it was, I think, Christmas of 2023 that I took both of our parents out to dinner and I had a conversation with them. And I was like, listen, I need you guys to all be prepared to be disappointed because it makes perfect sense to me from a parental perspective that your kids don't live here. When they're in town, you want all of our time. And that's because you love us. And I get that. And that makes sense to me. But it also kind of makes us feel suffocated. Like we don't even sleep in the same house because we don't want to let you guys down. And that's not how married couples do holidays. So we're changing that. And you're going to be disappointed. And we're sorry. But we hope that you can respect what we need to do to strengthen our marriage as a couple and not just try and please what you guys want. And like some of them were supportive, some of them weren't, right? But like at the end of the day, it is still like I'm not going to try and hurt someone's feelings. First off, I don't ever try to hurt someone's feelings. A.
Right.
B, if what's doing what's best for me hurts someone's feelings, I'm genuinely sorry. That is hard, and I can validate the hell out of it. And doesn't mean I would do something different. And I'll tell you what changed it for me, because I was also a great people pleaser, was in high school, sometimes pleasing the wrong people meant bullying other people. And that's something I'm very ashamed of. I acted out of like outside of my character to fit in with people I wanted to fit in with, and I hurt good people. So yeah, I didn't get ostracized to the cave to be eaten by a lion, but that shame will likely live in my soul. And I don't even know if I want to get rid of it. I think it's a really good reminder of like why I stand by what's true to me. Because for all I know, I could easily walk back into that scenario. And I think taking action, and I didn't even come to that awareness until like 5 years ago. So taking action like 15, 20 years ago and realizing how out of alignment that was and why I did it, I did have compassion and understanding for myself because I didn't know better, but I don't like it and I refuse to perpetuate it. And that's kind of like where my stance started. But since we're pinballing a little bit, I'm going to pinball with you. The telemarketer things. Oh, man. So great place to start. I love that that was the first place. I don't know if we can start with that with caller ID anymore, but let's go with it. Uh, so my maiden last name is Weiner, Weiner, but it looks like Wiener. So naturally, telemarketers called Mrs. Wiener. Nope, wrong number. Sorry. And you just hang up. And like I learned that one from my mama. And that was when she got that name. She just started hanging up. So then I stopped worrying as much because if you call me Wiener, technically that's not my name. So no, wrong number. Sorry. And I learned to
Well,
kind of move beyond that.
yeah, and well, it's so funny too like what we tell ourselves it means to do
Yeah.
something like that. Because you sort of, from what I'm understanding, had this default of, oh, that's legitimately not me. I'm not Miss Weiner. I can hang up because that's not actually me, right?
Why not?
But Ri- well, yeah, but gosh, say why not that easily to a people pleaser version of you 20 years ago, or somebody
Yeah.
who's it's like, oh my gosh, wait, what? And they're and that's the key actually is finding that bridge thought between, oh my gosh, I can't be rude, I can't hang up, I'm a bad person, this guy's just trying to do his, whatever that, and between, yeah, no, I don't want it, goodbye. It's finding those little bridge thoughts or those little moments of empowerment that allow you to act in alignment with what's best for you, but not be sleeping in separate homes every time
Right.
you go
Right.
to Chicago
Well,
for vacation.
I think that actually positions us perfectly because one of the things that you went out of the way to like to bring attention to, and I'm grateful you did, is like if you are struggling with not people pleasing, if you're struggling with accepting your experience, it's not wrong.
Right.
Yeah, but I think we can even take it a step further. Your experience is never actually wrong. It's just your experience. It's also very, very plausible and realistic that other people are going to have other experiences. You, me, and 50 million other people could experience the same minute and all have different experiences of that minute. And we are supposed to, based on how our psychology works. And that's one of the biggest things that kind of gets my panties in a wad, for lack of better terms, is like the invalidation of self, that your experience, whatever that is, isn't accurate because other people don't agree with it. But no one
Mm.
within you, experiencing that moment, like you are quite literally the only person there to confirm your experience was your experience.
Oh, can I push back on that a little bit?
Push.
Let me start by saying I do very much agree with what you're saying. And also, I think that one of the most powerful things about coaching is recognizing that our experience of certain things can sometimes be skewed by limiting beliefs or untrue thoughts or cognitive distortions that allow us to experience things that maybe are not, yes, it's our experience of it, so it's 100% true. And also, if our experience of it is based on our thoughts or belief or thoughts that are not correct or thought errors or limiting beliefs, then really our experience of it is malleable and could also not be true as it's true. Did
Yeah,
that land?
it's a two truths world, and you're 100% spot on. Where even if you're distorting your reality based on your limiting beliefs, it's still your experience. It's still
Right.
your current perception. Can you
Yeah.
tweak that perception? Yeah. Does that shift your experience? Sometimes, maybe not backwards, but definitely forwards. And that's kind of
Right.
one of the key components that I think is a good kind of split of the truths, so to speak, because
Yeah.
your experience within yourself is always valid and real, and no one really gets to say that's inaccurate because of their experience.
Right.
However, our brain does lie to us regularly based on
Mm-hmm.
our limiting beliefs, based on our fears and our judgments, our insecurities, etc., right? More often than not, when I go back with clients to kind of figure out something from the past, from their limiting beliefs to bring it into the future, I see the distorted understanding from the past. And we don't necessarily try to change that, but we try to see if that's still relevant and real and true today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think,
Well, it starts with that awareness step,
right.
like that we talked about before. It's first getting the awareness of what what was clouding that experience, or what was the cause of that being your true honest experience. Is it still true? Does it serve you, even if it is true? And
Yeah.
is it something you want to carry forward and be intentional about creating, in terms of the change that you're looking to move forward with?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like from a world of external versus internal validation, external validation is great. We all like that. But your experience is always your experience, and it's never for anyone to tell you differently from. If you want to do the work within yourself to expand your clarity and your experience, obviously, we support that. That is quite literally what we do for a living because we've seen how transformational and transcendent it can be in shaping the life you want to create. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
speak for like a we, but are we in agreement on that one?
We are in agreement on that one. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to circle back to one other thing that you said here, if it's okay if I throw a question your direction too.
All right.
I love the example of, your experience going back home and visiting family, and you had such a emotionally intelligent conversation with them, and held space for, yes, you may not be happy with this. What came up for me as you were saying that was, how important it is to have a solid sense of worthiness in what you want, and having that be okay, and your like true belief that you're worthy to request this change, or set this boundary, or disappoint this person, right? Because I think there's the people pleasing, the external part, but then there's that internal part of maybe people pleasing because we don't have that internal sense of worth. Like, it's not, let me try to figure out how to say this in a better way. We don't feel worthy that our values or our needs are important enough to upset mom and dad by telling them we're going to sleep at somebody else's house, or whatever comes up
Whatever it
there.
is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I agree. Is there a question?
Yes. Well, did I not ask the question? So how did you transition into having that innate sense of worthiness, that it's okay for you to say, this is not what, and it doesn't have to be the specific example, but this is not what I want my marriage to look like. That we're going to make this change, or any particular thing where you've really leaned into letting it be okay to disappoint others, because you like had that solid, like, how did you create, is that something that you created, is that something that you just feel like has always
Oh
been
no.
there for you?
Oh no. Definitely wasn't always there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it probably boiled down to two key moments when I think about it. One was when I was struggling with suicidal ideation. I was always have been a great friend. I'm a giver by nature, and I reached out to four people who I thought were my people, and none of them showed up for me. And that could have broken me. But turns out the stubbornness my parents always bitched about actually serves me well, and I fought for myself. And I think being pigeonholed into that position where like I really was alone and I had to choose to keep fighting made me value my own experience a lot more. That also is very pivotal in the decision of me choosing to become a coach. And in my coaching journey, I did like an inner child session with one of my coaches, and we found the source of my not enough belief. You're going to get a kick out of this. When I was a young girl, my brother and I used to play dress up downstairs. And like any young child, I just wanted my big brother's approval. And so he told me to go downstairs and pull out certain outfits for him, his friend, and me to play a dress up game together. And I did. I changed into what was a skirt, but I was so small, it was a dress. So, and pulled out their ninja outfits because I don't know why what we were playing, but apparently that's what we were playing. And I came upstairs to tell them, and they had jumped over the fence and ran to his friend's house. And that's when my 4-year-old brain made it mean if my brother doesn't want to play with me, then I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Now, I did this exercise when I was 30. And as a 30-year-old woman, I understand sometimes little boys don't want to play with their younger sisters. That does not mean you're not good enough, right? And so a big component of the exercise was kind of updating that belief and then going through the experiences of my life where I did feel like I wasn't good enough with the new understanding that I've misunderstood this the entire time and that it wasn't about me. Sometimes people just have different needs. And I was like, okay, sometimes people just have different needs. Maybe that also means sometimes I just have different needs. And after
Mm.
fighting so hard for myself, they kind of like brought in this space of I'm going to fight for my needs, but I can do it in a way that's kind and clear and loving. Like I can still be authentic and heartfelt, even if it means sometimes upsetting people that I care about.
Gosh, that's such a powerful tool sentence, like, to hold, to share. Sometimes people just have different needs. Like, that takes so much of the of the judgment and the heaviness away from, I mean, that can be applied to so many different situations. I absolutely, that's going to be the truth bomb of this,
Very
of
simple.
this session. It really is though. It's powerful and it's true.
Yeah. Um, so it's okay to be you if that's low energy, if it's unmotivated, if it's unsure. People have different needs and your experience isn't wrong. Just whatever it is, be aware and be there for yourself. That's kind of
Yeah.
the key sentiments that I'm taking away from today. What do you feel like we should add?
I just love the idea of allowing yourself to be who you need to be, even if it's not who you thought you were going to be today, right? You know,
Mm.
if as a parent, if you have to pivot and if your kids are demanding you be a different type of parent or bring a different type of energy, it doesn't mean that you're not the amazing mother that you started the day out intending to be. It means that sometimes people just have different needs.
There you
And
go,
that is
Jen.
okay. And sometimes we have our own different needs. So yeah, I think that ties this up with a nice little bow in terms of bringing it all together with what we talked about today.
Me too. So, I mean, we could literally talk for hours, and I'm definitely going to have you back on here because I know the listeners are going to love this. But for right now, where can people find you? Do you have anything that you have coming up that you want to share?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Valerie Steele, Steele. So I'd love a follow over there. I also can be reached at my website, which is whynotnowcoaching.com, whynotnowcoaching.com. I do twice a month. I do live group coaching calls that are free to attend. It's my way of giving back to the community. So those are called Mindset Resets office hours. You can find those on my website. Anyone is invited to come. I usually do about 10 minutes of training and then have open coaching for 20 minutes in conversation.
Love that.
So I would love to connect with any of your listeners there. It's a great way to just sort of get a reboost a couple of times a month, but also to experience me and learn a little bit more about my style. And absolutely, if anybody's ready to dive in, I have an 8-week program that is just absolutely transformational in terms of getting super clear on what you want to create in terms of your family life, what you want your professional life to look like, and then really stepping through how to make that happen. What has to change in order for that to happen?
Hmm.
So those are all the things that I have going on right now, and would also love to come back on and have another conversation. It's always so amazing talking with you.
Yes, I mean, guys, take it all, join in. It's such a great community, and you never know what nuggets you're going to learn from others as well. I love that you do that. So thank you so much for dedicating your time, your energy, your mind to, chatting away with me. Truly grateful for your existence, what you put out in the world, being here, everything in between. Um, and thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the space today.
Of course. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Challenges of Change. If you're ready to stop stressing and reclaim your sense of worth, be sure to visit my website at www.changebychallenge.com. There, you'll find loads of resources, blog posts, and information on how to work with me, Laura, as your personal mindset coach. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. Don't let burnout or any other obstacle hold you back from living your best life. Take the first steps towards positive transformation today. Thank you again for listening. Stay confident, stay inspired, and embrace the challenges of change. Until next time.